What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Italian Football TV. It's been a little while, middle of the summer. Everybody's on vacation, it seems.
Crazy.
Except us, except this trio.
No such thing as vacation for us. We still got a long way to go.
You're not taking any vacation this year?
No.
Me, this guy, nice. You got to work.
That's it.
Well, you got to save up for
expenses
a wedding.
to pay for.
He's got a lot coming up. Antonio is stuck in body right now.
He can't get out.
Non-stop sending us pictures every single day and video calling us.
Yeah, I think he misses us.
I think he misses you.
Yeah.
Mike took him to the airport. You know that Mike took him to the airport?
How cute.
Yeah, I did.
Mike is part of the family.
You're a real one.
Not even his son takes him to the airport, but Mike takes him.
His son was like sleeping, and I was like, "Wait, why didn't you take him?"
You're a son he never had, huh?
I guess.
No, can you say that if someone has a son? No, you can't say that.
No.
Yeah, you can't say that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You're a nepnephew. No, he has a nephew too.
Legit question, Mike.
Nipote, grandchild, or nephew? Which
grandchild.
Which one, grandchild or nephew?
Legit question. Do you spend more time with Antonio than you do your own father?
At times, 100%.
I don't think I
Game days for sure.
I think in general.
That's funny.
Game days for sure.
Anyway, it's been eventful. Like a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, between Inter, everything that's going on with you guys, your club, and Lukaku, the disaster that's been, and we got some updates and everything on the transfer market. I've also changed my stance on some stuff that I thought from the beginning of the Mercato to the end, and we'll talk about it with Milan. I was very critical at first, and I got to say, some of the moves that they're starting to make has made me rethink my positions at first, because I think they're making good moves. The exciting news, and we're going to break it all down in the podcast, is that we are actually going to go to LA. We're going to California, Mike and I. Sorry, Pete. I know you're no vacations for you.
We are?
Yeah, you and I are going.
Is it a surprise?
We're going Monday. No, you're the one who booked the tickets. We're going Monday because Milan and Juventus are taking each other on for the Soccer Champions Tour on July 27th. 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, and we want to see everybody that comes out because we will be there. Tickets are linked in the top of this video at the moment.
Yeah.
And Antonio might come. After this, we're actually going to FaceTime Antonio and say they want to let him come. They want to put him on the field actually for the game with us.
Oh my God.
But he's in Italy, and he's supposed to come back the day of the match, so he'd have to change his flight to be able to make it.
He's going to land from a parachute.
His wife is gonna love him.
She hates us. She's not gonna be happy with us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are on that blacklist, I think.
The son should ever...
He's got to see his son. The thing is, we kind of hinted this at Antonio a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, "Oh, no. If Milan wants me there, I'm going to be there no matter what." And we said, "No, what about your family? You're in body, you're on vacation, you finally took some time."
He threw his whole family under the bus.
Well, not for nothing. I mean, how old is he? He's had his family for like 25, 30 years by now. He's ready to go on to Milan. That's it. That's what
I think that's the only thing he cares
That's
about.
what he cares about.
Once we told him on the field, being close to players, he went nuts. We've been speaking about, so if anyone's going to come, please make sure you hit us up. We're going to be posting on social media the events that we have, because Michael and I are getting there Monday, and we're staying until the day after the match. So we'll be there for a little while, and we're actually going to do a pick-up match is what we're thinking. Maybe the day before the match.
Enough people, yeah.
And we're thinking to do something funny, which is get the Milan club and the Juventus club, the local clubs, and make them play each other.
We give them weapons on each side, and we'll just be a brawl.
A calcetto game. Mike will join one team, I'll join the other. Bring back Mike, the Milan fan. So if anyone is around, you guys are invited, maybe playing the game and have a nice little meetup, and we'll see if Antonio makes it. Anyway, that's the business side of things. We'll talk about it a little bit later. Pete.
Yes, sir.
Let's start off with you.
Okay.
How you been feeling?
About calcio mercato.
Yeah.
Interesting to say the least, but I mean, some smart moves. Still waiting to see how all the things materialize. If we're talking Serie A in general, it's been kind of slow, but I think now we're starting to see some things heat up because, let's face it, we're not the powerhouses that, teams that can go out and buy whoever we want. We're going to kind of have to see the domino effects of certain transfers. And I know, I see a bunch of times you've been saying it on Twitter and whatnot.
You follow me on Twitter?
And of course I follow you on Twitter. Come on. Well, come on now.
I don't follow him on Twitter.
Really?
Are you on Twitter? Are you active on Twitter?
I'm not as active
I don't
as
think
I
I've ever
should
seen
be.
you on Twitter.
I just retweet a lot of things.
Don't look at his likes. Don't look at his likes.
No.
His wife's going to go check right now.
No.
I know better than that, Mike. Come on. No, but
wait, so what have I been saying?
I was saying about like the whole Vlahovic idea. You said it even in our group chats, right? The fact that Mbappe, if he leaves PSG, now all of a sudden Vlahovic goes to PSG potentially, and then what do you guys do at that point? So, that's the position that we're in as a Serie A league, as a fan base supporting Serie A. We have to kind of sit and wait. But I think there's been, interesting developments to say the least with Milan. I think we've seen them become a lot more active, and I guess maybe gives a little bit of clarity or assurance to some Milan fans where at first they were nervous, Maldini leaving, Tonali leaving. And then Inter, I think we've made some smart pickups. We still have a big question mark right now in the goalkeeper position. I mean, I know we're close probably with a couple of players, but great bit of business by all means about Marotta getting Onana for nothing and selling him 55-60 million. But now you have a big void there to fill.
Trubin and Summer are the two guys.
Two guys which
thought to replace him.
Both, from my recollection, aren't the greatest with their feet. So it gives a different type of dynamic.
Trubin is not bad with his feet though.
Not terrible, but
I was watching. I mean, of course you can't gauge just off of videos. Yeah. But I was trying. He's a huge guy. I think he's 6'6". Yeah, he's a massive goalkeeper, and he's young. And I've seen with his feet, he's not been too bad. He's not Onana though, because Onana is literally a 12th player. He's a ball playing. He could be a midfielder. I mean, that's how good he is. Yeah. Some of the passes that he gives, and the one thing that I saw, the first thing on Onana, by the way, he's one of those few players that when they come to a league, you grab such an attachment to him. I don't know what it is about Onana. The charisma, the charm, the attitude that he has was one player that I know business-wise it made sense and I get it, but I didn't want him to leave. Even for that money, I said to myself, what he brings to the team is something so special. And I saw it when I was there for the Champions League final. I can't tell you the character that he brings to the squad, the way that he speaks. We're not scared. We want to go out there. So he brings that attitude, which I think is incredible, especially as a goalkeeper. And he's going to be a big loss. And my only fear, to play the opposite side, is you still don't have the goalkeeper, and playing out of the back is something so important for Simone Inzaghi. If you don't have that player that's going to be there on your preseason tours, you're almost starting from scratch a little bit with how you're going to build out of the back with a specific goalkeeper.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be a difficult part to kind of come across these different goalkeepers, a different style, getting them into the system of play. Even though for the longest time, right, goalkeepers are just meant to go and save and make sure that the goal doesn't come in, but now in the modern game, you want to have that guy that's comfortable on the ball to be able to start up and attack.
Don't tell my dad that.
Things might have to change. Obviously it was a luxury. It was a big luxury to have Onana there, but I feel confident in what Inter is able to do. I just would have liked them to maybe gotten one of those guys before Onana was sent gone, and then even Handanovic. I was surprised that they let him go because
really
I think. Listen, for me, Handanovic on the bench is a solid guy. He's been there for a long time. It's someone that you have already in case. He's a solid replacement. Now, if you're able to get Sommer, Trubin, it's a whole different conversation. But if you only get one of those guys, who's the second?
But the rumor is you're going to get both.
You should get both.
Trubin's commenting on every Onana post, waiting for him to be signed.
Well, I'm sure he's excited about it, but until the payment is made and there's the negotiation or the contract is signed and sealed, anything could happen.
And you can't get Vicario because Vicario was the other player that you were linked to.
And he went for
the Spurs
good money.
Tottenham.
Yeah,
so
lot of money.
There's a lot of
and
things
you're losing a lot of big
at.
characters, actually, now that I think about it. Leaders. Yeah. I don't think they're the wrong moves. Like Skriniar, I mean, he's been gone for how long? Already. Yeah. Brozovic, Handanovic, and then the one that we really need to talk to.
I didn't want to say it, but
Big Ron.
Yeah.
Your boy.
Yeah. Well, Lukaku, unfortunately, he tried to play his cards in his benefit, and I feel you can't say one thing and be a true person and then do the complete opposite. Listen, I don't really buy into a lot of the, I guess, interviews and what players say, because when they're at that point, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, I'm never going to go to Juventus. I'm never going to go to Milan. But then we see all the time things happen a certain way, and the player arrives at this team that they'll never go to, or the fact that a player might kiss a badge or show his allegiance to a club the next day, this is business. He can go somewhere else.
But this is a little bit more than that.
That's what I'm saying. The fact of the matter is, this is not just what the fans see. This is something that's happened within a locker room where Lukaku, had a relationship with a lot of these players, and based on reports, there was a lack of communication or none, and between what was being said to the sporting director and finding out that, you're going around trying to figure out if you could get more money or try to figure out if you can get a better deal out of everything. And it shows that, you did it once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you. And I like Inter stance. I wouldn't be surprised if something else happens,
Would you take him? Because right now,
as a fan,
the rumor right now is that Lukaku is not going to go to Juventus because they're tied up with the Vlahovic deal, and Chelsea already have the agreement with Inter. They're saying that Gazzetta says, this is again according to them, that he wants to go back to Inter, but both the locker room and President Zhang both feel like they feel a little bit betrayed because of what he did. Would you still say, let bygones be bygones? We still want Big Rom on our team. Let's sign him up.
It's very hard. It's very hard to say because
I think. What would you do?
No, I'm gonna. I think player-wise, we know what Lukaku can do, right?
This is political Pete answering.
No, I want to build it up. I got to build it up a little bit. Lukaku, we know what he can do on the field, right? He can score some great goals, but he can also mess up. That's number one, right? As we saw in the final when you're right in front of the other goalkeeper. Yeah. Okay. Already the locker room presence, that was one part that I would say, we can bring Lukaku back. But if he's having these troubles with teammates or, there's some friction now, that's going to be a no. And then with the fans, there's no way in hell they're going to have him come back and they're going to support him. It'll be very, very, it'll be a very delicate situation. So for me, Lukaku, the fact that we have to spend money for him, the fact that we're going to have to give him a nice paycheck also, because he's not coming for free, let's face it. I tell him, you know what? Learn your lesson. We don't want you. And you go on for the next person. Because guess what? Lukaku, he can be good for another maybe 2-3 years. But he's not the future of Inter. So let's already start looking for the future of Inter. We have Thuram, who, is not exactly Lukaku. But he gives us certain components that's why we wanted Lukaku in the first place. His ability to run behind the defense and his ability to beat his man on dribbling. He has that physical, strong ability to do it. Now the build-up play, we'll have to kind of figure it out, because I think by losing Lukaku and Dzeko, that's the hardest part for Inter, because Dzeko, at least, don't forget last year Lukaku was out, or when he came back, it wasn't the self for a long time of the season. So who's going to hold up that ball? Who's going to be able to help bring the team up? And then Lautaro to be able to create behind them.
So how different would your answer be if it was Lukaku of the first year at Inter under Conte, where he scored that many goals? Because I think that's also a big part of it. It's like Lukaku ended the season on a high. Besides the Champions League final, he got into much better form. He dealt with such a serious injury in the World Cup, which he said nobody realized how bad my injury was. I dealt with so many different problems, even mentally. He dealt with a lot of things, and I sympathize for him. And he was one of the guys that I always felt he gets a lot of hate online, and I thought it was unjustified a lot of the time. Yeah. But the reality is he didn't do that well. They have to pay a lot of money. When I'm hearing $40 million for Lukaku now, I mean, for me, it should be $20 million, $25 million max for a player that's in his 30s. And the fact that he didn't do incredible. If he wins you the Champions League final, then okay, maybe at this point you start to put things aside. Yeah. My problem with Lukaku is how he's handled everything at this point. And I said, once he did this whole thing with Inter, which made no sense because he loved Inter, he kissed the badge, he said, this is where my family feels happy. He pushed to come back there even at Chelsea. He got everything that he wanted, and then he doesn't accept the deal, and he's waiting for Juventus, whether it's true or whether it's not. He was playing a very risky game. Yeah. And at this point, the only place I see him going is Saudi Arabia. I think they're the only ones who will take him unless Inter changes their stance.
I mean, to be honest, listen, there's only so much you can get away with. If, Marco, like you said, if this was the Lukaku of past, was the capocannoniere, and, doing these little things on the side, these little charades on the side, maybe you can get past it. But if you're not scoring, if you're missing these early chances, you're injured, you're not doing what you're supposed to, and on top of it, all that stuff that follows, the fans aren't going to want you. The ownership's not going to want you. You're expensive. And at that point, you're a burden and seem like the traitor at that point.
And why, though?
I know.
Like, why? It can't be. I know I keep seeing the rumor that he's mad that they didn't start him in the Champions League final, but it's impossible for that to be the only reason
There's more. There's a lot
this.
we don't know about, just like everything else. But that's one of many, I think.
I mean, at this point, he's got a bad PR campaign against his name, and like
Rock
I said,
Nation dropped him too,
I truly only see Saudi Arabia coming to call him, and honestly, maybe it's the best for him. Take the money, go to Saudi Arabia, because at this point, I don't think Juventus fans don't really want him.
The fans definitely don't.
No,
want him.
yeah,
So that's going to be another tricky part. But
they'll change their mind real quick though
if you
once
score goals.
afterwards.
Like
but-
Cuadrado, like what the fans said to Cuadrado.
Yeah. The only
That was
thing
a
is,
big
again,
one.
it comes down to, I think Cuadrado can, I think Lukaku adds a lot in Serie A still. I think he can bring you a lot, but not for those prices. Not for what they're talking about, almost 10 million in a salary, 40 million for a transfer fee.
it's too
It seems
much.
like you're overpaying for a player that in the past was doing stuff where now we don't have those guarantees on what he can do in the future.
Exactly.
That's how I feel.
And like I said, the fact of the matter is that last year it was injury ridden season. You know, he had a great last couple of months, but he didn't give me enough to say, hey, we're going to spend all this money.
To justify that price.
And especially when you have these type of shenanigans, right? Where you're calling Juventus, or even if Juventus is calling you, that you're even thinking about, going to Juventus. That just shows, you're not really in it for this project. You know all the things that you said in the past are not true. And
But
listen,
as a player, you could listen to any offer. You could listen to
yes,
anything.
but I think it's not so much about listening to offer, but more so keeping Inter on hold to make sure that he gets the offer that he wants from Juventus. And then at that point, what you do is you then go to Inter, hey, I got this. Are you matching? So,
For a team to go to Juventus that's not even playing in Europe next year.
Exactly.
Which is part that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think Juventus also were more so getting information to make sure that they have what they need
in case
Vlahovic leaves.
Allegri definitely likes him, and he's definitely somebody that he would love
He'd be
to
a great player for Allegri
to have him.
counterattack.
Either way, I don't know where the situation's gonna go. I don't see it ending well at all. And honestly, I think it could be the last time that we see him in Europe at this
He
point.
should cash out.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him to do that.
Listen,
Which team do we go to next? Napoli,
sure.
the champions of Italy. They're not very active at this point. They lost Kim to Bayern, which sucks seeing him leave after just 1 year.
Yeah.
He was probably the best defender all season long. They're looking at a lot of different names with Rudy Garcia, the new coach, obviously is the biggest talking point. He wants to play the 4-3-3. Reason why they got him. I don't know if you saw, by the way, De Laurentiis in the press conference when he announced Rudy Garcia. He's like, "Oh, you made it to a Champions League final. That was one of the reasons why I wanted you." And then Rudy Garcia was like, "No, I didn't make it to the Champions League final. I made it to the semifinals." So,
Yeah,
Not the
fun
best
little
star.
antidote.
Not the best
well, that's
star.
De Laurentiis' thinking. I think he wants Champions League, right? That's what even when he was on the call, the video call with you guys with CBS,
He said, "I want to win the Scudetto and the Champions League."
Champions League. So it's like, even with Spalletti, I think he realized, hey, I did what I had to do. If there's any other pressure besides trying to repeat the Scudetto, then this is not realistic. Especially if Kim gets sold, and unfortunately it's part of the contract. It's a great bit of business by Napoli, but now you have to replace another player, that helped win this Scudetto race, right? But let's look at the full picture. Napoli right now still have Osimhen, still have Kvaratskhelia.
That'll be the biggest
They
thing.
still have the players that really helped win the Scudetto.
If you had to sell one of the big three, I would choose Kim 10 times out of 10.
Of course. Well, listen,
I mean, it's a pretty easy choice
It's
for
easier
me.
to replace a center back
Yes.
than a scoring winger
Then
right now.
Kvara and Osimhen,
And
it's so hard to get go.
Cheaper replacement
That
also.
too.
cheaper to
They're saying
replace.
Danso
Yeah.
is the guy that they want.
Let's not forget, Skriniar, although he's leaving now, he was gone already in January.
Yeah, exactly.
And Inter made the Champions League final with Darmian. So these are players that you can kind of replace. Obviously, when you take it to the next level, you notice the next level defender. But you could always look to find a solid replacement. And Napoli, I think, are just now, that Kim deal is finally official. They have this money to kind of play around with and organize. They're changing of a sporting director also
True.
creates a whole nother system of play. And then new coach also with Rudy Garcia, changing his mentality or what he's looking for in players. So I think they have to still figure out as far as players going out. Zielinski and Chucky Lozano are the two players that have been mentioned because their contracts are ending.
Both could end up in the stands for a year. Because De Laurentiis has already threatened them, is what they say, that if they don't find a team, if they can't go anywhere, he doesn't like to play a player that's going to go on a free transfer. He did it with Milik as well, if you remember.
Exactly.
Who the entire year, he stays in Tribuna and there's nothing to do.
Freeze the player out.
Lozano, they're saying LAFC want him to make a big move for him, which honestly, if I was Chucky as well, I think he's another player that I'm very okay with Napoli selling him and trying to replace him. Maybe not with the replacement that they're talking about with Bernardeschi. I don't think that he would be the guy. I would love a Berardi type of player. I think for Napoli could be great. Somebody dynamic on the wing. But Lozano, for me, doesn't produce that much. He's a replaceable guy.
Well, he was never a starter. It was always between him and Politano, always switching back and forth. So I think Milan had that problem too, and now they have Pulisic. But in that right wing, they never had a consistent starter there. It was always who's going to start.
Yeah, I mean, Chucky also, I think the biggest problem with him and his stay with Napoli was he's never been able to be consistent. And there was a big price tag for Napoli, specifically. When you're looking at, I think, 38
from
million.
PSV, right?
I thought it was 40s.
40 million.
I thought it was in the 40
I don't know the
millions.
exact amount, but it was definitely in the 30-40 range. And so for Napoli, that's a big spend.
I believe at the time it was their most expensive transfer until Osimhen came.
Okay.
I think Lozano was their highest.
42 million.
42 million.
I think it was their most expensive transfer of all time.
That's a big transfer fee for a player
He
that
didn't live up to it.
hasn't been as consistent. So, De Laurentiis, we know his style. He's very straightforward in his approach. So Chucky Lozano, he's probably looking around. And LA, let me tell you, I know for salary, they'll pay his salary because he's a Mexican player. So it's great for the marketing. And then also his abilities. Listen, his abilities will translate into this MLS game really, really well. So, his ability to run by defenders, to go on, taking players one-on-one, and his work ethic up and down. So he'll be interesting if he does end up coming to LA. And I'm sure Napoli will make a little bit of money on a transfer, so they'll kind of be happy with that and taking off his salary off the books. And then with Zielinski, we know Sarri is a big fan of Zielinski, taking him from Empoli to then Napoli. So
they're going for Ricci at the moment, though, right now.
Yeah.
Is what they're
From
saying.
Napoli?
From Torino.
Oh,
Yeah.
Torino.
So listen,
He was
They want a lot of money for him, though.
yeah, well, he's a young center midfielder. So
Yeah, but
I thought he played great with Empoli. Torino, he had a little bit of a rough patch.
25, 30 million is ridiculous.
Listen, you look at the players that are going in England. So these are the
Okay,
numbers
but
that
for
are
an Italian
that
player,
are
Ricci
floating
is
around.
not
And he's
30
not
million.
really proven.
Yeah, but he's
But
young.
he's not
He's
proven.
young. Trust me, there's a little bit of a market for him.
That's a lot.
If you can sell Tonali for 70, 80, that's the
Tonali
trajectory.
was playing in the Champions League semifinals.
I
Tonali
agree.
is
So we're
Ricci
talking about
Ricci
25
is-
million. We're not talking about
Yeah, you can't. I don't think
a
you
lot
compare
more.
them.
So
I don't know.
This is the market in Serie A.
Ricci, he was exciting for a little bit. He was one player that I always kept my eye on, and then sort of died
Dipped.
down. I don't know when I watch him. Not saying that he's a bad player. Not saying that he can't do it. If Sarri likes him, that means that he's a good ball playing midfielder. But is he somebody that I go crazy about? Is he the replacement for Milinkovic-Savic?
I
don't think so.
That's
Big
hard.
shoes to fill.
That's hard to say. But Milinkovic-Savic, you're not going to replace him easily. So it's more so, I guess, unfortunately, also part of business where you're saying, hey, if I spend 25 million on Ricci, if he has a great season, he can go for 40 the next year or in 2 years. Whereas Zielinski, you're getting not necessarily dead weight, but you're getting a player that's going to be good for you. But at his age, you're not
resale
selling
value.
him for that same amount. It's more so your assets depreciating. So that's also a mentality thing. And even Lotito, we're talking about brash owners. Lotito's another one where he just asks for the positions from the coaches, and he decides who he goes after.
That's what he says.
I don't know how true that is, but he's definitely involved. Let's put it that way.
He says that he doesn't. He says that he doesn't let Sarri choose the names. He said
That's
he
what he
said
said.
Sarri tells me what position he wants, and I give him the name.
That's what he said. I don't know how true that is, but he's definitely involved. Like De Laurentiis is involved.
What do you think, Mike?
For that,
Yeah.
well, he does. It seems like he doesn't like spending too much money.
Nobody does.
That's
Who likes spending too much
it's-
money? Well,
Saudis love spending money, as you can see. They took for talking about for them for a second. Those guys are going. Everyone's going there now.
I can't
Yeah.
believe
It's
Milinkovic-Savic
insane.
went there.
Brozovic is there. Well, we know Ronaldo. There's a million people that went there. Ruben Neves recently. I know there's a whole list that I saw.
Well, since we're talking about Lazio, Immobile has this offer. I don't know how true it is or how likely it could happen, but
he should run and take it.
Supposedly Monday, he's going to have a decision.
He should run and
for
take
Saudi
it.
Arabia, where he's an older player, even Lazio, potentially, depending on what they can get for him.
But Lotito said there's like, unless it's a huge offer, they're not thinking about it.
He's
right?
not. He's got to say what he has to say, Mike.
Yeah.
So it's.
How's Castellanos, by the way? You've probably seen him more
Tati?
than us.
Oh, he's a very interesting player.
They signed him $15 million
Yeah,
from NYCFC.
guys, for a striker as a number 9, $50 million is very, very cheap.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that he scored 4 goals versus Barcelona with Girona. Okay, and he was playing in La Liga, so this is not a direct transfer from an MLS team to a Serie A team. So La Liga also obviously a lot more space than in Serie A, different style of game, but it's a guy that he's able to take his chances well. He's also got a good first touch, quick on the ball. So it could be interesting. It gives another dynamic to what Lazio have already, and he's $15 million as a number 9. That's not a lot of money.
It feels like these days the theme in Italy is you just got to do more with less. Yep. You got to be better than ever in choosing the right players and making €1 act like 100 euros, because that's the situation that you're in. Your scouting needs to be better. The profiles need to be better. There's a lot less margin of error. The other guy that's linked with Lazio, and I actually before Milinkovic-Savic, I had a crazy idea in my head about what Lazio could do next season. And I know it sounds nuts. They were linked to Berardi.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Berardi, I know this sounds crazy. They finished in second in Serie A. Best defense in the league. They add to a prolific attack.
That's a strange season.
Am I crazy to think that they might be able to challenge for a Scudetto?
Yeah.
I'm crazy?
Yeah, because what Sarri did...
Sarri's won the Scudetto before.
But I could have won the Scudetto if I was Juve, whatever. What Sarri did, he pretty much left himself from every competition while everyone else was killing themselves to go to Champions League. Both Milan clubs were fighting to go to the Champions League final. And Sarri basically was just playing one game a week while everyone else was killing each other with injuries and playing all these competitions. So, and he almost blew it, to be fair. There's a few chances that he was losing against teams or dropping points. And I was like, is this guy going to blow it? But he ended up doing it. But I don't think they have what it takes for next season, because this was a strange season for me.
Listen, Lazio, all I can say is if it's just Lotito choosing the players, I don't know. But if you give Sarri the players that he wants, his team play an elegant football. And he a lot of people even talk about the attack, but that defense last year was top.
It's the best defense.
So,
one of the best, if not the best.
I'm going to say you're a little crazy, but not that crazy. Can I say that? Is that good?
That's fine.
I don't know. I don't know how
mental hospital.
Yeah, like I don't know how to compare it. Like you're probably the guy coming out of the mental hospital more so than going in.
Oh, honestly, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I have this weird little feeling that maybe I'm just looking at the numbers too much.
Place a $5 bet. That's a lot of money.
The only thing that that scares me about that idea is that I'm looking at the other teams and I genuinely feel like everyone is getting better.
Yeah.
The teams that had underperformed a little bit are getting better, and I guess that lends us to the two teams that we're getting ready to go watch and cover when we go to LA with Juventus, who brought in the signing of the summer is Giuntoli, the sporting director, who, if you're watching this, we have a video that just came out right now that features Peter as well. You helped us write all this. We interviewed you, your business partner, Mario.
Yes.
And then Zaccardo, who won the World Cup, but we put your name
please
at the top of the list.
Featuring.
Well, it's only because my last name starts with a C and it starts with a Z, right?
Alphabetical, right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's the only reason why. No, but it goes a little bit more in depth on his past, what he's really good at, and why Juventus have brought him in. And I think when you look at some of the early moves that they've already done, it's sending that exact signal of what we talked about when we filmed it, and we filmed it prior to it being official. But you've seen him make a hard stance on certain players and just clear direction of where they want to go. Leonardo Bonucci being one of them. More than likely out of this team, for sure not a reference point, not a leader of the squad. He's never had a great relationship with Allegri since he went to Milan all those years back. But Juventus are coming on tour, and they're bringing a couple of exciting new players. And Timothy Weah is one of the new guys. He's one of the only signings that they made this year. Him and Milik, who they signed officially. It's more so a year of getting rid of players because they don't have much to sell. And then if they could sell one big player, then they'll be able to sign players. Yeah. But this Timothy Weah looks like he's going to be very important to the Juventus squad. Allegri, all the rumors are he's playing a 3-5-2. Even in their probable formation, which I'll read off in a little bit, is 3-5-2. And Weah, who usually plays more so in an attacking position, has also done a lot of defensive work as well. And from what I'm seeing, the reporting in Italy, it's saying that Weah has impressed a lot. He's impressed the Juventus coaches. He's impressed Allegri with both his work ethic and the skills that he has at his disposal. So maybe Weah is going to be the key man, especially going forward with Cuadrado out.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, to be honest. A young American player, too. We're going to see how he is. American players, too. Pulisic at Milan, it's pretty good so far, the Mercato, if you're, based in the U.S. at least, and a Serie A fan. But,
born in New York, too, right?
Yep.
Weah was born in New York, right?
Grew up in New York.
I think him and Musa were both born in New York. Why do you think they're good?
Nice, yeah, there we go. But I think it's going to be really exciting seeing these young players develop on and off the pitch, to be honest. And I think I'm going to keep a closer eye because, let's be honest, a lot of people were writing off Cuadrado even later in his career. I always thought, he always gave 100%. It's not going to be easy to fulfill his role, what he's been doing. That guy would play any position. He was so loyal to whenever he played for Juventus, of course. And I think it's gonna be tough to replicate what he does, but I'm excited. I predict he's gonna have a good future with Juventus for sure. Yeah, I think Weah's gonna surprise a few people. For sure. I know. Just seeing him in the U.S. national team, he's pretty exciting.
I know in America, a lot of the Americans who watch him for the national team, they're not too happy seeing him as like a wing back because they think he's got to drop back too much. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Pete? You kind of blend the two. You got the American side that you watch the national team a lot.
I think the U.S. fans that are upset are more upset that he's going to play right back. So you're not going to get the goals. You're not going to get the assists that you'll get as a more offensive player, the winger. And then also for the national team, we have a lot of right backs, so Timothy is always going to be playing up. If it's a 4-3-3 that Berhalter plays, he'll play as that right winger. But one thing I could say to all those fans that are upset about it, there's no better coaching style or understanding tactically of Italian football. Yeah, I wasn't going to say Allegri.
I was waiting.
Italian football defensively, Timothy is going to learn a lot. With playing in that position, and we know Allegri. Also, his style of play, even if he was going to be lined up as a winger, it would probably be next to whoever the right back was anyway, because he's going to park the bus. But is a player that but last year he played as the right back for his team in France, Lille. So he already went into that position. And then two, going forward, he can give a lot. And I think if he keeps his intensity high and the tactical awareness high, he can really transform into a great modern day right back because he's up and down the field. He's got a great work ethic. So be very interesting to see how he pans out. And then obviously in Italy, a lot of people probably know, but his father was a Ballon d'Or winning striker for Milan.
And a Juventus fan.
And he's a Juventus fan. He also used to come here in Staten Island and play some soccer.
Staten Island?
Yeah, because there's a big...
Oh, now I'm judging him.
Liberian community.
In Staten Island?
Yeah.
No way.
So he had cousins or brother-in-law, something here.
Interesting.
So he used to come play.
He was almost perfect.
And he actually went to the Verrazano Fields.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
All right, he went up in my book.
He touched the same artificial blades of grass that we did.
Well, no, before there was the turf. We had
dirt
battleground.
Do you know Timothy Weah, when I was doing my my recovery from my knee when I had surgery, he was at my physical therapist. We shared the same physical therapist. And my guy kept telling me, he's like, yo, come in. There's this guy, Weah. It was years ago. He's like, yo, come in, meet him. And I never did. I never went in. He's like, yo, I got to introduce you guys.
Look at you now.
It was like COVID, and I don't know why. It was like, I had to it was a whole big thing for if I went in early, but I never did. And now the guy is playing for Juventus. I never would have been able to imagine that. Going more into Juventus, like I said, the direction of the club is I think towards, at least they have a direction. We don't know if it's going to be the right one or if it's going to be the wrong one, but in past years, I feel like they haven't had a clear direction on where they want to go. The only two things that I'm feeling, my fears, I got two things that terrify me, that I wake up in the middle of the night scared of. And they're my two of my favorite players in the entire league, and Dusan Vlahovic and Federico Chiesa. What happens with them? there's been so many rumors in and out. Are they leaving? Are they staying? Vlahovic especially, because he could get a lot of money, but not even a lot of money compared to what they bought him for. Basically break even. For me, I would never sell Vlahovic. I don't blame him for wanting to go if the opportunity came. But from Juventus' perspective, I just feel like getting a player that's... we haven't seen him at all. We have not seen him at all at Juventus, and I don't think it's... Partly it is Vlahovic's fault. You can't take all the fault off of him, adapting to a new place, but I think Juventus will really regret losing him if he goes. And then Federico Chiesa, who is in a weird place because with Allegri, he's had to play so far back at times, not closer to goal. Right now, they're saying that he's been playing as a second striker. And in the 3-5-2, in the probable formation, they've got Vlahovic and Chiesa together as the two strikers. Vlahovic is a 9, Chiesa is a second striker. And according to a lot of the rumors, he's been doing amazing, Chiesa, in training. And they want him to play as a second striker. So maybe this is his way to stay at Juventus and not have to play as a wingback since Weah is going to be there. Mike is making a face.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I just feel like Juve are in so many different weird loopholes the past season. And I think Vlahovic, to be honest, has been really frustrated the past season with, first of all, his performance, with how he's being coached, the way he's being coached. I don't think he likes the style that he's playing. He's he's one of those number 9s that want to score. He doesn't want to sit back and then make that counter attack. He wants that service, and I don't think he gets it. And Chiesa, to be honest, I'm not really thrilled about. I don't think he should be in front. He should be in front of the goal. I think his best position is on the wing. But like you said, I didn't see him in training. They're saying it's better, but
scored a sick goal the other day.
Yeah, but train doesn't always reciprocate on the field at the end. But maybe it does work out. Maybe Vlahovic like, okay, maybe this is gonna work. I'm gonna have Chiesa by my side. We're gonna play differently. Maybe more attacking. Maybe Allegri made him more promises. I don't know. But just by hearing those things, I don't know. It's tough. And who knows if Vlahovic actually wants to go or not? If he's really waiting for an offer and just waiting to pounce before the season starts. There's a lot of things, ifs, ors, and buts.
P, if I said who's the player that you would look forward most to on this U.S. tour, in this current roster? Obviously, they're talking about other signings. They're talking about Frank Kessie in the midfield. They definitely need another midfielder. They need another defender, bad. But in terms of this squad, who are you most impressed to watch? Who do you think's the key guy?
Well, I think, not to repeat it, but Chiesa playing in this new position, I'll be very interested in trying to see that. I don't know if I couldn't read your notes over here, but Pogba, is he on the list?
You're making fun of my...
Marco can't read it either. Don't worry.
Is he available?
No, Pogba's not.
Because I was going to say Pogba will be someone that I want to see also. Yeah, I would like to see what's going on. But I would say Chiesa playing in that new role, yes, it's different than playing out wide, but it's going to get him closer to the goal. He has the ability to take a man on, so it's more so how he receives the ball and is he able to link up with Vlahovic? Because I think big problem with Vlahovic is the fact that he was too isolated last year and at his time with Juventus, where he never had a continuous partner in crime, and he never had that real service in that he should be getting every time as that target 9. So, you're saying, not to get off your question, but with Vlahovic, I think a decision that needs to be made from Giuntoli or Juventus is, what does it look like long term? Forget about this year. This year
he's long term though.
That's what I'm saying.
He's so young.
Yes, but is he long term for Juventus? That's the idea. Because
what do you mean? What's the difference?
Well, are you going to keep him for 5 years, or are you going to sell him to the next offer? So at that point, PSG now losing Mbappe puts Juventus in a good position, because they could ask a lot more than what they would have to sell him now, because they know time's on PSG to find a striker. And in that position, there's not a lot of players that you can look for, especially for a PSG. They're going to have to go for a big name. They can't just pick this random guy out of the blue, especially for Mbappe.
One of the guys I'm most looking forward to, and then Mike, we'll pass the question to you. these U.S. tours were always a good way. At least, I mean, obviously we're biased. We grew up in this country, so to be able to see the teams that we follow every year, they come 3,000 miles over to us. It's always fun because you get to watch them in training. I know Juventus has a lot of open training sessions that they're trying to do as well. And I remember in 2011 when Conte first took over the club and they made this huge resurgence, it was built in the U.S. It was built in the days in Philadelphia when they were training, and getting an eye into that was always so interesting. And the guy who I love this player, and he's part of this roster, and he's expected to start, is Rovella. And I think Rovella is immensely talented. There's been a lot of back and forth whether he can play with Juventus next year, if he's capable, or if he's not. And they're saying that this U.S. tour is the moment to decide for Allegri if Rovella can make it. And I think he can. I think he's got the technical qualities at his feet that he can play. He also brings he's a different type of player to the rest of the Juventus midfielders. And in the 11 that they're predicting to play in the next match against Milan will be Miretti, Locatelli, and Rovella. And I think Rovella helps be the link. Besides that being an Italian trio, I think Rovella is the link that makes that team exciting. And I want to watch him specifically through this U.S. tour. He's going to be the guy that gets a lot of my focus because I want to see him do well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of exciting things also, but I don't want to... There was also in the past years that we saw some players do very well in these tours, and unfortunately it didn't correlate for the rest of the season. Like, they were either loaned out, unfortunately, or didn't get enough playing time. But I do hope this time around we start seeing more of a meritocracy in terms of if you start playing better in these friendlies, or even the youngsters, we start seeing them in the Serie A or the other tournaments, because I really feel like Italy has a lot of these talents that they're not being used enough for the important games, and I think this should be a real stepping stone of what we're going to see within the next few months.
Okay, but you're going to be with the team. We're going to be there for 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah.
Who's the guy in Juventus that you're saying, is it Gatti? Is it just the basic Chiesa or Vlahovic, or is it somebody else that you think you're going to keep your eye on the most?
I think Chiesa, to be honest, because I think Chiesa's had a pretty troubled route from when he came. We saw him play amazing, signs of glimpses, but there were times that he was played out of position, or he wasn't able to play due to injuries or whatever the case was, or not being in form. So I am excited to see if this new position in that 3-5-2, maybe he can revelate his career, do something better for Juventus, because I think the biggest weakness for Chiesa is his finishing ability. I think every other thing, he's quick, he can beat his man, he's a hustler. We've seen him play in defense also before as a wing back, we all know that. So I think if he can really improve that finishing role, I think he can really cherish, he can really become a real great player with Vlahovic up front. So I think that's someone that I'm keeping my eye close to my eye for sure for this U.S. tour. It's going to be fun to watch him.
All right, let's go over to Milan before we end this out. And I said it in the beginning of the podcast. This is a team that I heavily criticized in the beginning of the Mercato. I slated because of what happened with Maldini. And I'm not ready to completely say that I am okay with Maldini leaving or that it's even the right decision at this point. But what I have to say is I think a lot of their moves, at least on paper at the moment, look like the right moves. And I think that they've made the team better than where it was last year. And we'll look at some of these names. The guys that, let's say the ones that went out. Maldini obviously is the big one in the director role. Brahim Diaz obviously left. He went to Real Madrid. Zlatan Ibrahimovic retired. And then Tonali is the big money move. They got around 70 to 80 million euros for him from Newcastle, which I agreed with. I think that they made the right decision accepting this amount of money. I think Tonali, yes, for personality, for the way that he's a Milan fan, for what he brings character-wise, it is a loss. But in terms of being able to replace him as a player, I think it's very possible, especially with the money. And they've basically funded their entire Mercato around selling Tonali. So they brought in Christian Pulisic for around 22 million euros. They brought in Reinders for 20 million. They brought in Loftus-Cheek for 16 million. Okafor, who signed today, for 13 million. Romero, who's a free transfer from
Luka.
Lazio. He's a young player, so we can't bet on
His
him
potential.
yet. And then the name that they're expected to close for really soon is this kid Chukwueze for around 20 to 28 million.
Chukwueze.
Chukwueze.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Nigerian. Yeah, Chukwueze.
Okay, what did I say?
Chuck.
So
Like he's American.
Chukwueze.
Like he's a Chuck Norris.
All right, any pronunciations you need, look to Michael. So that's a total of 99 million. And they spend around
crazy.
less than 20 million for all of these players who, okay, yes, some of them do come with some concerns, but I think overall add to the quality of Milan.
For sure.
What do you think?
Listen, you lose one player and you gain all those players, you're changing the dynamics of the team. I think the players that they got especially all support the way that Pioli plays. You know, you get rid of Brahim, but then you're also adding a Pulisic who, you know, whether it be just for marketing reasons or bias, I think Pulisic is rated higher than a Brahim. Pulisic's biggest problem is just, staying healthy. I think that's the biggest problem that he's kind of had to experience. And, going to a Chelsea where there was a big price tag on him. And Chelsea, we know what happened the past year where they just bought whoever they wanted and it still failed. So it's a good chance for him to kind of refresh, go to a Milan, which is a historic team, and prove what he's worth. Then the other smart signings that I like, I can't pronounce the names either, but what's this guy's name? Reinders, very interesting player. We see what he's done already, and
he played against Lazio, for Ozzy
in Holland, and then Loftus-Cheek also brings that physical component into that midfield where you miss out with Tonali leaving. Do you get the same quality? I'm not sure, but we'll have to figure that. And I love the Okafor signing because he scored against Milan already, and you're getting a player that can really change that offensive approach where Giroud I think is your starter, but towards the end of the season, depending on how things go, this kid might even be able to run in and take that role away from him. He's different player. Very different player.
He's like strong. He gets hit. Yeah. He likes to set his teammates up more than he does necessarily just scoring a goal.
Yeah, and he's quick. That's a big thing in this modern game.
He embarrassed Kalulu.
Yeah,
that goal he scored
sat him down. And guess what? I think it also gives a little bit of flexibility with all these players that you add as far as what formation you can play. Depending on how the games turn out, can you recoup from a 2-goal down half, or can you be able to change something up where you need to score a goal? So these are some moves that I think definitely can make Milan fans smile, especially after the beginning where I think a lot of them were frowning, if not crying, the fact that you lose Maldini, who is the face of Milan, let's face it, and then Tonali, who was supposed to be the l'ultima bandiera, the last flag, I guess, or player of Milan for years to come.
Franchise player, as our good friend Antonio would say.
There you go, franchise player.
The Maldini one, yeah. The Tonali, less so for me. I think that, again, a lot of these make sense on paper. My fear, there's a couple of injury concerns with these players as well, in terms of if they could stay fit. You mentioned Pulisic, which is the big one. Obviously, what he's done for the exposure is something that nobody can dispute. I played in a game yesterday, a Nike game, and I had somebody on my team, American, said he didn't watch a single game of Serie A last year. He's like, no, I didn't watch anything. He goes, but I'm a Milan fan now because of Pulisic, and I need to watch Milan play now.
Oh, yeah.
He said that's what I'm going to do, which is just something for the people that are not within that don't live in USA. Maybe you don't grasp it. And for a sense, I didn't even realize how massive he actually is. But he is huge for American fans in terms of them wanting to watch the league.
Well, right now he's the most consistent player for the U.S. He scores a goal. He's pretty much involved in almost all the goals over there. All the Americans know him, and I think it's going to be huge. Huge for Milan too in general. Not just on the field, but just to have a whole nother fan base supporting Milan, I think is huge. Just like with McKennie and the Juventus effect, but I think this is going to be even greater because Pulisic is the captain of the U.S.
I think Pulisic is much better than McKennie.
But I'm saying in that extent, a smaller sample size.
He's a much bigger profile than McKennie. He's the number 10 of the U.S. national team captain nonetheless, and has always played with top teams, Borussia Dortmund, Chelsea, and now Milan. So I saw even with the IFTV post with the jersey sales. And guess what? It's not just an American thing. This is a generational thing where players and fans go with the player that they love, that they fall in love with. And, even with the Cristiano Ronaldo move to Juventus, financially, it really helped Juventus explode, even though maybe it was worse on the playing side of how they're expecting things to kind of pan out. But I'm talking about that. I was in Utah last week, and I was asking you guys, is there like a Juventus fan club that I don't know about? Because I saw Juventus jerseys everywhere in Utah, and that's probably the last place I'll ever expect it. Because if it was a random shirt or whatever, but I saw literally like 10 people wearing a Juventus jersey.
If anyone knows why, if anyone's in Utah watching and knows,
it's crazy. And I think it has to do with Cristiano Ronaldo. That's if it wasn't that there's a Juventus fan club or Juventus soccer club there, it had to be for Ronaldo.
But Juventus exploded here, even in New York. Like when I was growing up, the only people that had a Juventus jersey, I mean, you were like an Italian kid, but it was rare. Going to a park and seeing a Juventus jersey was like really, really rare. And then it just exploded with Ronaldo. Yep. And when you talk to people, and especially here, again, I'm saying like fans that probably just watch the Premier League or U.S. soccer or stuff like that, you say Juventus and they all ask like, oh, because of Ronaldo. They think that that's how you became a fan. Yeah. That's just sort of the way the team is perceived there. But at the end of the day, Pulisic needs to go on the field and he needs to perform, right? All this other stuff is great. And I think he has the skills to perform. He has the skills to obviously be a starter. And I think that he adds so much quality that the team has been missing. It is, can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy and consistent? And now there was questions if he's going to play on the right wing or if he's going to play as an attacking midfielder in the number 10 role. And now it seems like we know that he's going to play as the attacking midfielder because with Chukwueze, better, Mike?
Yeah, that's good.
Good. He's the right winger, and they'll play Pulisic in this role. But as you said, they're able to change formations, and they're able to play a little bit more dynamic. And the probable formation for Milan is actually a 4-3-3 with Pioli switching over, which there's been rumors that he wants to do that. And the front three would be Leao, Giroud, and Pulisic up top. Because obviously not all the signings are complete yet, and they probably want to go with the three-man midfield, stilling to Musa, another American player. Defense all the same. But yeah, exciting and definitely gives a different dynamic to the team.
It is fun, and I do want to see Pulisic on the right side also, just to experiment to see how they are. But I give a big round of applause to Milan for this one because they're really targeting what their weakness was from the past few seasons. And one of them was a right wing, and it was a questionable thing if that number 10 role needed improvement. And I think from last season we realized that it did need improvement. So they did get two players to directly replace the players now, and I do think they're
better,
at least one step level better than what they had before. So that's huge. And now for that, I think the only thing that's missing, like we said, they also got a couple of midfielders, is that striker position too.
Well, they got Okafor for that.
Yeah, they have Okafor. No, it's interesting to see because he's a little bit different striker than how Giroud is. So it's interesting to see how he's going to play, but Milan, really great mercato so far. Really
on
good.
Paper.
Yeah,
Again,
on paper.
On paper.
Yeah, exactly.
On paper, it looks good.
On paper, yeah.
My fear is, why did Maldini leave? If this is what you're going to get, why didn't Maldini want to do this? And I trust a guy like Maldini.
Yeah.
It could also be a power struggle more than anything else, where he had his way of doing things and the club wanted to go a different direction. So, it's not necessarily the case where knowing that you sell Tonali, you're going to buy these players. He probably had a different idea of things, and this. You
think that's what it is?
I think it's part of it. I don't know if it's exactly that, but I do think it's a power struggle, and who makes the decisions ultimately to buy players.
Now they have, it's like Moncada, right? Yeah. And Furlani, who's the CEO of the team, and they say that they're relying heavily on analytics, has been the joke. Like they signed that guy from Moneyball, right?
Yeah, Billy Bean. Well, he's part of the investment in the Redbird.
What other club was following that thing? Was it Dortmund? I think it was a Bundesliga team that was following that sort of. Do you know?
Bundesliga
or am I just
team?
making this up?
No, there's a lot of teams that are using analytics. Spezia, for one, is also another team that uses analytics.
Where are they now?
They don't necessarily work out, but that's
Americans
the case.
like this style.
Brentford in England. that club historically went up 2 leagues to go to.
Who's the director? Was it Spezia's director? I think it was Spezia's director that just came out recently. He went to Napoli. No, I'm forgetting his name.
Meluso, yeah.
That he said the American ownership wanted him to rely on analytics,
Yeah,
and he said it's good. Of course, you need to use analytics.
But
It's not
entirely.
saying, but he said there's nothing like going to watch a player in person, and he said I couldn't work like that. I couldn't work in that way. So I guess it's basing all of your information on that is not a good thing.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
football, in this sport, it doesn't exactly translate because there's a great quote that I love from Fabio Caressa, who's one of my favorite commentators. He's a legend. He's the guy in the 2006 call that I'm sure everybody knows when he screams Cannavaro or Gol di Grosso, whatever, Andiamo Berlino, all these famous sayings, where he says the one thing he hates about stats is that stats do not show the heart that a player has. They do not show the grinta that they possess. And he's talking about that from after the match, where you just basically look on stats. It doesn't tell you how good a player played. And I totally agree with him on that. So there's definitely got to be some sort of balance.
Yeah, and this definitely reminds me of Inzaghi always making the same substitutions. When someone gets a yellow card, take them out, 70th minute, automatic thing, rather than just as a human analyzing the game. So I think there has to be a balance.
Yeah,
It shouldn't just be a whole thing for
I
one.
can't agree with you more. You have to use that information to your benefit
Exactly.
to then make the right choice.
the human decision.
That's part of the human part. Now, if AI comes around and changes that as well, as we already seen, who knows what to expect later on. But that's one part. I think for the most part, the human element makes a difference for a top coach, a top player. That's all the ingenuity of that person making a decision. Because ultimately, when everyone's fresh, everyone knows what is an objective and what to do. But it's when things get rough or during a game, how the coach is able to respond.
So having just bashed analytics, I have one stat. Reinders played 89.65 minutes on average, which is the most in all top 10 leagues.
It's good.
So he's a reliable player.
It's good.
He's an engine.
He needs a break is what he needs.
It's good.
He needs a day in the spa.
No time for that, Mike. But yeah, last team, Roma. Let's talk about Roma. The moves that they're making. Haven't spent.
What moves?
They made moves. They made moves. To be
Some
fair,
cheap moves,
they
yeah.
made moves. OR in the midfield is
Oh, yeah,
one of
yeah,
the
that's
guys.
It was early on in the.
Yeah, they
Everyone
did it quick.
wanted him, and now all of a sudden, what happened to him? The hype died down with him.
I know, but now we get him. We get him at Roma, free transfer. And Dika as well, who's another player who they say that Mourinho kept calling to be able to convince him to join the team, because he had a lot of other clubs that wanted him, clubs that were playing in Champions League football, playing in higher competitions. But he believed in Mourinho and he believed in the trust of him. And apparently this kid's good. They say that he's a really good player. Obviously, again, moves that kind of look good on paper. We don't know where they're going to go from here. I think anything can be an upgrade over Ibanez, though, at this point. And so I'm excited to see what happens
And
there.
also with Roma too, Belotti's supposed to be getting the nod for the starting striker.
No,
too. Apparently he's been playing well in the trainings and stuff.
No, he's not going to be starting striker.
You don't think so?
Bro, where'd you read this, bro?
You don't think he's
Massimo
gonna
Di
be-
Culo?
You don't think he's gonna be this?
What the hell is that?
You never heard of- you don't read Massimo Di Culo?
No, I gotta
No,
read it now.
that's the most reliable journalist.
Ryan listens to him all the time.
You know what this some account did like years ago, because they used to always check Di Marzio.
Oh, okay.
And English fans, they eat up a lot of transfer news. So some guy made him say his name Massimo Di Culo and was making up like Manchester United
Wasn't it
rumors.
for Pogba or something?
And they were like quoting him so much.
Jeez.
So
That's definitely Ryan.
No, but Belotti, to be honest though, Belotti has been playing well in the training sessions, and apparently he looks like a different player.
Bro, he didn't score a single goal in Serie A last year.
I'm saying
I know.
for here.
Who's
the
he scoring
training
against?
session. Okay, we can say the same thing for the other teams
For who?
too that he's doing. In the training session, he's just playing, looks like a different player.
Belotti's there. The thing that they still need is a striker. They're working on Scamacca. They've been working on Scamacca for a while now. Obviously, the situation with Roma is they don't have money to spend. Right? They don't have money to spend unless they sell at this point in the mercato. So they need to convince a lot of players with loans. They need to convince players with free transfers. by selling them on the project, and obviously Jose Mourinho, the effect that he has when speaking to them.
Yeah.
Scamacca's the one though. He is Roman. I think he's Roman, right? Or is just a Roma fan?
And he expressed that he likes Roma. So
he came out and said that how much he would want Roma.
That'd be interesting to see because he didn't get a lot of playing time, unfortunately, in when he was at West Ham in the Prem. Yeah. So I don't know if it was a premature thing for him to come back, but him coming to a bigger team than he once was at Sassuolo, a league that he knows, maybe he could do something because he was very good at Sassuolo when he got service.
Roma should be perfect for him. I think Roma should be perfect for him. He's so talented. Like, we're not going to dispute the talent that he has.
He needs confidence.
He's good with his feet. He's a big guy. He can score in different ways.
Yeah, I think he's talented. Is he this elite striker? He still has to prove that because, with West Ham, he didn't have a greatest showing. And then, I don't know if it's character issues, but there's definitely pressure going back to Roma, being from Roma. So it's not so easy to say that he's going to come in and fix all the problems, especially when last year he didn't have a good season. So he needs to be able to come in.
But that's why Roma's good for him.
Listen, it could be a great opportunity for him.
Roma can't go out there and buy a great striker.
But the thing is, Roma's biggest weakness was goal scoring. They couldn't score for the life of them.
Yeah.
And Tammy's out until the new year. He's out until January at least.
I trust in Mourinho. So if this is a player that they're going after, he can work his magic with him. He's got the stuff. He just needs to really put into play.
Okay, him or Morata, because those are the two names. I take Scamacca over Morata for Roma.
I think Morata is already proven to score you the goals in Serie A and score you the goals in the top leagues and stuff. Whereas Scamacca is more of a risk.
But there's more upside.
Ooh.
There is upside.
There's more upside.
There is upside.
And
the pricing is a lot different, I think.
Dybala played with Morata too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. They would have a good relationship.
I didn't think about but I would pick Scamacca just because he's younger. I think he's more hungry. Yeah, Morata's more proven. But I do think there's more upside for Scamacca for that. But he's similar to Morata in terms of that confidence. He needs he's the same
There's
kind of
no
player.
better place for that than Roma. Dybala is proof of that. If you need to go to a place to restart your career and to gain some momentum and to get love from a fan base like no other, it's Roma. Dybala did amazing choosing Roma. I remember everyone was doubting, why is he going to Roma? They're not playing in Champions League, this and that. Mourinho makes you the center of everything.
Yes, yeah.
And the Roma fans embrace you like no other.
Oh, yeah.
Them keeping Dybala number one is the biggest thing that they'll do in the Mercato because anything with him is great, but they do need the number 9. Yeah. They need that number 9. They're reinforcing the midfield. Still maybe another defender to come in. These are the positions that they need to reinforce. But it's such a hard situation. You sent the graphic, right, Mike? That they're the only team that didn't spend on transfer fee. Was it dead last?
Yeah.
That's
0.
Insane. That's insane.
Yeah. But if you get decent players at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But yeah, for a team like Roma, you should expect to spend something. Something. Not saying the most, but you're not a Spezia.
It's not over yet. We still got another.
Month and, there's gonna be so many. The last week is gonna be hectic as usual. I think we're gonna see a lot.
Anyway, guys, that's our little preview of some of the Serie A teams and what they're up to. As we said, Soccer Champions Tour presented by DirecTV is happening. It's on. Michael and I are leaving Monday. We're getting on the plane.
Monday morning.
Going to Los Angeles.
Straight, no sleep.
We want to see you guys there. Tickets are linked in the bio. Come out to watch Milan and Juventus play. It's a great moment. 2 Serie A teams back again in this country playing against each other. Even if you're from the surrounding areas, take the trip. Come over. Stay tuned on our socials because we're going to announce the pickup game, the date. We're looking at maybe the day before the match, maybe the 26th
or the day before that. We're still stuck on a couple of dates for sure. But guys, it's gonna be great. First time going on the west side with IFTV.
First time for you.
For IFTV.
Oh yeah, you never been California, right?
No, I never left the state of New York. No, I'm kidding.
Nobody wants you.
Exactly. But I think it's gonna be a blast. It'll be fun for sure. And quick predictions: Juve and Milan. Who's gonna win that friendly?
If Antonio goes, Milan's going to win. If Antonio doesn't go, then Juventus will win.
Me? Milan.
What about you, Mike?
You guys both said Milan. I'll go with
I said if Antonio goes. Because he's going to give the pre-match speech.
We're going to see Antonio comment when they're singing the national anthem with the parachute.
My biggest fear is that if they let Antonio on the pitch, is that he's going to run into the locker room. That's my biggest fear.
Run on the field.
Well, on the field for sure.
He's going to get tackled. I'm going to tackle him.
Just call security and say that he's not around. Well, it'll be
we can
fun.
do
There's a
that,
lot of
for
people that were
sure.
asking us, saying if Antonio's going to come or not. We're gonna record a FaceTime, telling him this right now, right after this podcast
Hopefully
ends.
he's not sleeping.
No, he's not sleeping.
It's early.
And see if he says yes. If he can change his flight, then he's coming. So guys, thank you for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Ciao,
Ciao,
ragazzi.
guys.
Ciao.
See you in LA.